Good evening. Thank you for stopping in. I am nobody. Your storyteller, your narrator, and number one fan. This is the inaugural episode of Lost Wages and Second Chances. Let's try that again. This is the inaugural episode of Lost Wages and Second Chances. Tonight's episode is entitled Whatever Stays, Happens. And again, thank you for your attention, your time, and hopefully you enjoy our episode as much as we might.
Hello.
Why, hi folks, how we doing?
I'm doing fine. So I took myself a little bit of a nap before the session, so I'm all good to fucking go.
I've just been chilling, waiting for you. Just
Yep.
enjoying the night.
That's always a good thing. And as we wait for the other players to dawdle and dwindle their way in, do we have any questions going forward?
Do you need me to put down a specific location for my haven? I need to find one of those.
Dealer's choice in that regard. I can map it out. But just having an idea, one of the reasons for that area is it is in the top 5 most dangerous areas of Las Vegas in regards to crime and such activities.
Okay, so you said it's a square area. Does it end kind of along Veteran Memorial Highway? Is like
Yeah.
that big old? Okay. Yeah. All right. Oh God.
Yeah.
This is like, not gonna lie, from above they don't look like bad houses, but this is a nightmare. This is nightmare fuel for me specifically.
Yeah. What just, it works out, especially in the world of darkness, for that to actually be the case.
Also, what? Iglesia Angelica Amigos. That's totally not going to bite me in the ass eventually.
Hello. Welcome in, Eugene. Eugene Neon, Eugene Ryan, Eugene.
Hello.
Hey, it's lovely to see you again.
Definitely feeling spiritual.
I'm looking forward to seeing how this all turns out.
Welcome. How are we?
Bueno.
That good, huh?
When the description of your current state is no words, but simply a grunt or some kind of sigh. You know the day's been
can
long.
impart a lot of information.
We're not that sort of adult play group, so
Oh, I am. I don't know about you, but all right.
Well, no, I find myself in the past 5 minutes kind of fighting with something, so it's interesting right now.
Okay. Well, if this something continues to persist and bother you, you can, airdrop the address, and we will make all due attempts to make sure that it's properly swatted. If you'll hang on one quick second, I'll be right back.
Ooh-wee. Alright, so, Eugene, how the fuck do I know you?
Good question. I was actually kind of looking through many things. How long have you been in Vegas?
For a hot minute, honestly, since around the 60s? If I'm not mistaken, let me take a look at my character sheet just to refresh myself here. No, okay, so I've been living in Vegas since the 70s. I've been a kindred since 1998. I definitely did not remember how young my character was. Foo-wee boy.
Oh, he's kind of a grunt who does jobs for people.
Kind of a grunt level kindred.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Vance, that's a local politician. Janet Kelly. Eddie. Oh. Eddie looked like, honestly, if I saw Eddie coming at me in a dark room, I'd say I'd fucked up at some point. He's
And
got
that's
the...
probably one of the things that Eugene does. He's that guy.
There's something about the particular, kind of... What's the word for it? The kind of pained expression, but like I'm not in pain, but it's a kind of dour expression that people carry on their face every once in a while. That just casually carry it. That very much gives the impression of if their attention is directed at you, you have fucked up at some point.
A mild grimace, or what people have popularly renamed in pop culture as the resting bitch face.
Yeah, that might be it. Let's see. You're enemies with the Dawn?
Hey, again, can't always have friends, right?
That's true. But you are friends with the or mutually beneficial friends with the sheriff. And the Nosferatu, like just somebody knows. All right, that's good.
Yeah.
You have the perk side hustler.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what the hell that perk does, but
It's from the player's guide. Let me
what
look
does
it up for you.
do?
Side hustler. Here we go. Once per session, get something as if you had 2 dots in resources, contacts, or influence through your network. And this can be like contacts. You can be like, all right, so I have a contact in X sphere. So it's like, we're about to go down to the docks. Oh, hey, I know this guy that works here at the docks. I should be able to, get him to, convince the security guy to take an extra lunch or something like that,
Ah, gotcha. It's that guy. Okay. Gotcha.
Well, I mean,
You definitely make that work for me.
Gotcha.
But you have to be judicious as far as using it, though.
Oh yeah, you got to be very selective and very focused in on what it is specifically you need. So how old is Calloway?
Calloway is 71.
71, hot damn.
But he's been in Vegas, since 86.
It's 86. Gotcha. Okay, well, so Ryan used to be a boot level member of the local mafia. Like the local Italian.
That's how we met, because you were boot level of the mafia, and obviously I made enemies with the Don, so
Okay. So our initial impression was a very negative one, but once I got out from underneath the Don's work, and once I stopped working for the mafia, we could have, fixed that particular relationship, especially with you being a side hustler and doing small jobs here and there to get favors.
yeah, favors and food. Well, money, so that I could get food.
So still not necessarily a bueno understanding of each other, but given that I'm no longer beholden unto the opinions of the Don, I'm not going to stop you. I've just got a understanding of you that's colored by my particular background.
Oh,
So
we're
what did
not
you?
quite friends, but we're not enemies at all. We're actually kind of. Yeah, I know that guy. He's not that bad.
Yeah, we know each other. We know each other's useful. Just not necessarily liking each other right now. Not necessarily
Right.
disliking. We're on a solid, flat basis. Which is kind of like where me and
Yeah.
Neon are right now, I believe. Actually, it's where most of us are. We're 92% business partners.
That would work. That would work. As long as we can all make money, there's no problems. We don't have to all sleep in the same bed.
You're right, you're right. Let's see. So, what does Eugene do? What does Eugene get up to?
He hustles.
um,
He legitimately don't have any real. He doesn't have any real one thing, and that could be the reason why the Don is not his favorite person because he hustles. So he
so
does a little bit of everything.
yeah, he might have edged into a territory that he didn't need to. It's like, hey man, you know how like you went and you delivered this cache of weapons and shit the other day? Yeah, well that was ours. That got stolen from us. You should have brought that to us. Hey man, I'm sorry. I didn't fucking know,
Right?
and it's not my fucking business. So sucks to be you.
Exactly. Exactly. It's not what I had nothing to do with what was in the case. My job that paid me was to deliver it. What was in it was none of my concern.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very much.
that would work, and which would tie us in. I don't know about the rest of the characters though.
Yeah, very much like Joji was brought along on several a time of the Dawn trying to get you to, what's the word, capitulate. Very much that wasn't brought because I was influential. I was brought because I was meat. And so it would be on those occasions that like we first ran into each other and was able to recognize each other. But once, were you embraced in Las Vegas?
Yes.
All right, but once we both entered the night, and Ryan went off with his sire rather than working for the Dawn, some calls could be made, some jobs could be done. What's up, Maddie?
Uh,
Hello, hello.
yeah. So there's another Maddie here. Cool. There's a Maddie
Well,
here.
just need to change the name. It's fine. Oh, bye.
Let's see.
There we go.
All right, sorry about that, folks. Thanks for your patience and welcome. Oh, we're going by Morgan. Hi, Morgan. How we doing?
Just totally fine.
All right, so we're here once more for the first time yet again. And before we dive completely anywhere near close to the matters at hand, let me extend my heartfelt thank you. Play means a lot to me for various reasons, and I am so very glad that we all are embarking on the adventure of this coterie in this city. Las Vegas has a slew of connotations, many of them as well known to us as Where's the Beef or Just Do It. But it has its own soul, twisted, doused in glitter, and as bright as the sun at noon, yet wholly and 100% its own thing. The climate difference between Las Vegas and Los Angeles is one of degrees, yet Las Vegas is always hotter and always cooler than Los Angeles and most of the other nearby population centers. There is an average of 25 million tourists per year. As average, meaning that there are some years where that excels and swells to even higher and some years where it's a little slower. The trickle of money isn't as easy to discern. And yet, through it all, Las Vegas remains Las Vegas, a place where illusion is reality, and reality is only something someone dreamed of once while losing their shirt, their house, and their car at some tables in some back room of some place that was miles away from the nearest source of light. It's a place where everyone understands the grift, everyone understands the connotations, and everyone works diligently to foster that connotation onto others while reaping the benefits of it. So, thanks and setting base given, we're going to do things a little differently. We're going to start with not if you all have any questions, but what's one question you would like to know from the person, from the character, immediately to your left. And we're going to start with, unfortunately, alphabetical. And that's Eugene. Meaning, just so that we have an idea as to what the order is, alphabetical by first names. Eugene, Fancy. The kindred known as Morgan, Martha, and Ryan. Unfortunately, Victoria will not be joining us, but we'll start there. One question you would like to understand or know of Fancy, Eugene.
Okay. Question. What is it that you generally do for substance? Like, what is it that you do for your night to night existence?
Fancy owns a academy for showgirls and performers, and that is her preferred male performers. So, I hate to say it, kind of like casting couch in a way. Like, you want to get ahead in the game.
You want a part of my movie, kid?
A little bit, but not full out, I'm going to tape this because obviously that would break the masquerade, but more of the fact, here, come talk to me. How much do you want to get ahead, kind of thing? I can give you some preferential treatment, talk to the right people for you, if you keep this little thing between us quiet, type of thing.
This is the give-take a give-take relationship. So if you want to get ahead,
And the next part of that sentence could be said in two different ways. So, okay, and
Yeah.
So, Fancy, you're up. What's one question you would like to know of the character immediately to your left, which would be the kindred known as Morgan?
What is one item that you keep around you that reminds you of your human self, of all things?
Well, ain't that a loaded question? The thing that reminds her most of her daily existence as a human is probably a small collection that no one gets to see of tiaras and pageant sashes.
Interesting.
She was a pageant girly.
And
Doesn't explain the attitude.
And Morgan, you're up to bat. What's one question you'd like to know the answer to from the character to your left, which would be Martha French?
Well, Martha, what is your favorite story that your kids told you for childhood at bedtime story?
Oh, Martha loved the Bible growing up.
That's certainly unique.
But if she had to pick a favorite story from the bunch and bunches, which one speaks to her?
The story of Joseph and the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Nice musical reference there.
And Martha, what's one question you would like to know from Ryan?
It's a good one. How's your mom doing?
Rude.
The fuck is everybody involved with my mum for?
Rude.
They're doing fine. They're doing really good. They had some friends visit the other day. Not exactly my kind of people, but, I made sure that they didn't sell or anything, so that's always good. She keeps getting weird calls, but, very secretive about them, so I try not to pry. Might be a boyfriend or something.
And speaking of prying, Ryan, what's one question you would like to know of Eugene?
Well, Eugene, given that the people of this coterie have known each other for a little bit of a hot minute, what's one idiosyncrasy of your character that comes up when they're very stressed, when they're feeling it?
When Eugene is really stressed, he takes out his pocket watch repeatedly. Every couple of seconds, he checks the time. He's always anxious to look around to see what time it is.
Yeah, gotcha. Very, very late for a very important date. Alright.
That's a lot of information. Gives a lot of leanings. Hopefully, I was not the only one taking notes. One of the many things that we do in this lovely, enjoyable hobby of ours is get a chance to live someone else's life, some other being's existence. It is make-believe. There is a parasocial dynamic that's called transference, it's called bleed, it's called all number of things. It's neither a good thing nor a bad thing, but it happens. Sometimes the feelings of the characters become ours, and sometimes ours becomes the characters. Like we're responding to things that are not necessarily fully present or prescient in the character's life, and it adds heft, it adds a dimensionality to what they're experiencing. And that can be a good thing, but it's also important for us to understand that these characters are different. We need to understand them. We need to occasionally feel what they're feeling to respond in kind, but they are wholly 100% separate and divisible from ourselves. This little break ice process is giving us the opportunity to see the world through their eyes, to understand a little bit of what's going on with them, to enmesh ourselves in their night-to-night existence, which for them is one singular night from the moment of their death until now. The coterie is broken into several different epochs of time, the oldest kindred present, of course, being Fancy, who is total years in existence, 79. Following closely thereon is Eugene, total years in existence, 71. And we move on down through the coterie, the next up being the kindred known as Morgan Crane at 52. Then Ryan Hughes at 50. And Martha French bringing up the rear, as it were, of those present at 37. So we have a wide swath of ages and times when these kindred died, because that is exactly what it is. The only way to become kindred is to, in essence, live past your death. It changes things. It twists things. And it is a burden unlike any other. The promise of forever. And it sounds great. The marketing for it is out of this world. But the reality of that, being stuck mentally, emotionally, and physically at the time of your death. None of the easy, quantifiable craziness of dreams, of separating reality from all of the many worlds abounding between the synapses of our thoughts. No ability to truly ever process your death. One long, never-ending night, which for the coterie and the city is not necessarily a bad thing. Unlike most of the other cities around the world, be it New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Monaco, Shanghai even, Vegas is a city built upon waiting for the night, of escaping the day. It's too hot, it is too sweltering, even under the best of moments, to truly operate during the day. One grows accustomed to it, but only because humankind is at its core parasitic. But the night is when things happen. The night is when fortunes are won and lost, when chances taken can redefine the entirety of one's existence, be it for good or be it for ill. Where the hustle is in fact very, very real. So, once again, and with all due feeling, emotionality, and absolute truth, thank you all for being here for the inaugural voyage and start of Lost Wages Second Chances. Having an idea as to what Las Vegas is penultimately important, because if you ever lose sight of the hungry beast that is the streets, the fiefdoms and domains of the city, it will swallow you whole. And that goes double for those such as our kindred who are already dead to the world. Lose sight of the prize, take your eye off the ball, and, well, that could be all she wrote. Because the promise of immortality, like all other promises, are often made solely to be broken. So we close our eyes and open our minds to a star, an earthbound star filled with light and energy and sound, spreading out across the dark, infinite wastes of a desert. And as we focus on that star, that bright ball of energy and sound faintly there in the darkness, we grow closer and the sound gets louder. The cars moving in and around the edges of that star, laying flat against the desert's sand, racing, the engines revving, the lights twinkling and dancing to all of the unshed tears of every happy, gloriously sad moment of our existence. The laughter mixed equally with tears and frustrations. The cheers of victory based on the roll of a die or spin of a wheel, missing with the exaltations of mortal dread. As fortunes change hands in back rooms designed to feed kings. Pensions are tossed away on the flip of a dice, on the toss of a coin, on the shuffle of a card. And as night crashes and explodes with sound and activity, those who spent hours preparing meals and dishes and prepping, and those who have bussed and moved cars and luggage and people, the airplanes taking off and landing nearly round the clock from all points due elsewhere, bringing with them starry-eyed adult children looking once more to capture the magic of imagination, the joy of fantasy. The buses pulling in and leaving as if it was designed by Henry Ford himself. Every hour on the hour, another bus from somewhere else pulls in and deposits its load of children, either actually, mentally, or just emotionally. Children who don't quite understand the responsibilities of adulthood. Those who are willing to risk it all for the chance to risk it for a biscuit. And as is our way, we will begin anti-alphabetically with Ryan. Night has fallen as sure as anything else you've ever known. It's the one constant in this new state of being since your death. Whether you want to or not, there is no lazing abed, no 15 more minutes. When night happens, a blink of the eye, you are once more resurrected. What, if anything, are your evening ablations?
So, kind of get up, get dressed, real quick, get cleaned, make myself look more presentable for this immediate next step than anything else. Then after, ready to go, check my answering machine, just a quick stop over at my mom's place to make sure that she's doing fine before I set out and do my nightly duties.
How often do you check in on your mom?
It's got to be at least once every other day.
So, has it been the full 24 hours, i.e. 2 nights, or were you just here last night?
This is off schedule, yeah.
Interesting. So she wasn't expecting you, and not much is obvious as you. Do you walk to your mother's or do you drive?
I drive. It's a hot minute away.
That's a very good thing. So you found a way to move your mother out of the easily affordable surroundings of her honest to goodness pension. Your mother has a pension, which is its own mental maze and jumble of thoughts and emotions. There is no way with your mother's careers that you know she had should she be entitled to a pension. She never tricked, cajoled, or managed to find someone to love her enough to stay, to marry her, to give them her name. And yet, your mother has a pension. Like clockwork. Every month, the money is deposited. Every 14 days, she gets a notice, a tabulation of when her next payment, how much is still there, the interest gained, the interest lost, how that might change her payout, her dividends, and the offer to perhaps potentially reinvest in something a little more risky. All above board, which is the troubling aspect. Your mother didn't work in any field where there should have been a pension. Yet, they come. And your unannounced, unscheduled visit is greeted as it usually is. You heard that when the eyes go, or when one sense goes, the others pick up on it. And there your mother is, standing in her doorway, the gate held open with her left foot, her hand folded under one arm as she puffs away at her Moore's 120s. They are longer than king size, longer than the hundreds you have seen and indulged in. They are that extra bit longer, making it appear as if she is in fact using a cigarette holder from days of old, which wholly contrasts and outright laughs at her ensemble. It is a almost sheer thing, giving the illusion that you can see far more than you can. And you're sure that a few of the neighborhood boys and young men who've made their way by have taken more than a double glance in her direction as she stands there in the doorway, her auburn hair still not gone gray, framing her face as her eyes stare out, as if she can in fact see all of the many people passing the hullabaloo of the street. And you know full well that she can't. Yet she greets you as you ease into her gate. Oh, Ryan, is that you?
Hi, it's me. What are you doing standing out here?
Do you expect me to smoke in the house?
I mean, I pay a cleaner for a reason.
Well, you can't get yellow out of the walls, and I don't want to be staring at all of that filth.
Well, fine enough. I guess it's your building. Everything going alright then?
Of course. And she pauses, looks over her shoulder at the all too quiet house. In your old neighborhood, there's always the sound, the noise, the activity and feel of people closer than they should be and far enough away to provide the illusion of privacy. Here, she is in fact all but alone, and the silence of the house is deafening. She turns back towards you, staring into you, even though you are sure there's no light that will ever grace those eyes again. The cloudy blue of her eyes, the color hasn't changed, yet the sight is long gone. And as she lightly smiles, you hear a revving engine speed past, clearly out of her garage and away down the street.
Well, what the fuck was that then?
Are you asking me, did I see something, Ryan? Are you serious?
No, I'm not asking if you... Who the fuck just left?
If I'm lucky, you, soon enough. Who do you think you are? You think you're my dad instead of the other way around?
No, I'm just trying to make sure and check up on you. I didn't know you had any visitors tonight.
I don't have any visitors. Is there anyone inside? Can you hear anyone? Can you see anyone? Maybe I missed them on my way out
no,
here to have a cigarette.
I swear there was a car they just took off at your garage.
You shouldn't swear. It's not nice. I didn't raise you to be a fucking heathen, did I?
No, your business is your business. I just wanted to check in, make sure everything was fine. I guess, you know, you've got your things going on here. I won't busy you with whatever the hell I've got going on.
There's a piece of mail for you. Come on in. And she turns and moves as if she, in fact, is completely sighted. The way that she holds the door with her back foot and steady as ever with all of the grace of her years upon several off review stages. Twirling and spinning on stages small enough to serve as tea kettles without ever losing her way. It's one of the many feathers in her bonnet from her days of entertainment. She never fell. And as you make your way inside your mother's house, we slide due north. Martha, it is not easy to change, even with the granted promise of forever, even with the understanding as to what your mortal soul is in store for, even with all of the truths you know are just a hair's breadth away. It's not easy because you literally blinked. There was the evening conversations, the winding down in preparation for the coming sun, and then once more, a second later, an eye blink of time, you are resurrected. You are once more in this hellish garden of earthly delights. What, if anything, are your evening oblations?
Well, I think first thing I'm going to do is check my cell phone to see what messages I've got.
As per usual, the world doesn't stop spinning, the hell doesn't stop burning, and the sick don't stop needing vindication, the ill don't stop needing assistance and aid. The world is bartering and barging into your space, into your penance, because that's what this is, that's what this life is what this existence is. It is preparing the garden for, hopefully, its ascension.
Waiting the third cane.
Several score of texts from Blake, several score of texts from the missionary, the night hospital that you all run off book, several score of copies of medical histories, and several score more of heaped upon need.
Well, as I get a sour, I triage what I was sent. Does any of it look immediately important?
The sad thing, and the thing that you learned even before your death, was that every emergency is important to someone. There is always someone dying, someone near dying, something. And with what you've been sent, yes, there are those who need more assistance than others, but in the grand scheme of things, it is just simply more of the same. Slogging through the spaghetti and meatballs that are the semi-solid demons that are the humans around you. These souls who have not been enlightened nor raised up out of the filth and muck, as ever a testament to your penance necessary.
Well, I think I'll do a blush of life and head over to the hospital then.
Excellent. If you so kindly go ahead, give us our first roll of the evening. Do that little quick arouse. And while that is happening, and you're preparing, and you're asking the angelic specter of the beast for all strength due to mask and hide amongst all of these, well, pitiable and pitiful souls of monstrosities about you, the teachings, the scriptures, well, often tossed off hymnals begin flooding the mind, granting or attempting to grant some peace of understanding. Never allow the angelic voice of the beast to manifest through you. Never succumb to fear. Never allow the penitents and demons of this world to stop you from growing ever closer to Cain. When exorcising the angelic specter of the beast, feed only from hell's denizens, sup only on those destined for worse and everlasting punishments. And the tenet, the conviction, the true weight of the cross, the part that has you do a double take at your cell phone. Never consort with the lowest beings of this undying hell. That scripture, those passages, those references always twist the knife. Because while you don't consort with them, you don't take them into your being. You don't allow them to take up too much of your presence of mind. Some might say that you're tending to the cattle, your good shepherding of the beasts of the field, the lowest denizens of this immortal hell, could be misconstrued as doing just that. Some wouldn't understand that you taking care of these other lesser life forms is a self-sacrificing act of penitence. If they are well in hand and don't procreate and don't further add to the burdens of what this world might put on your shoulders, then your path towards Cain grows easier. There are less beings willing to not only ride your coattails, but attempt to wrestle you into submission with them by tending to the humans, by tending to. And as that thought bubbles and percolates and circulates just out of sight, your beast rears to life, granting you the look of being lesser, but also demanding its tithing. You need, and you need now. It's not quite yelling, but its increased presence is just another cross upon the load upon your back. It's another cross beam from which you will be crucified eventually. But for now, it states and demands satiation.
Well, I think I'm heading to the hospital anyway. Might as well pick up a snack while I'm there.
So already salivating. How do you get to the hospital? Do you use public transportation? Do you use the cat? Or do you use your own vehicle?
I think I'll use public transit.
Excellent. That being the case, the stench and flavor of those around you is enticing. It's not enough to cause you to leap out of your seat or dive on the first mortal nearest at hand, but it definitely causes that thrumming of need to pick up pace as you inhale all of that odoriferous, wonderful stench, because that's what it is. The workers who haven't had time to shower on their way home, those who have been partying throughout the entirety of the heat of the day, the aftershave and body spray mixing and mingling until your nose and you are covered in it. You can feel their stench worming its way through your clothes, into your skin, seeping into your pores, causing your mind to sweat in all of the grit and grime. And adding injury to insult, the boss, of course, pulls off the road with the driver letting everyone know. Sorry about the delay, folks, but we have another bus on the way. If you'll sit patiently, we'll get you on your way as soon as possible. And speaking of soon as possible, pawn shops have a life of their own. They are microcosms of the communities in which they inhabit. In Las Vegas, there are twice as many pawn shops per capita as should be reasonably probable. Yet, it is one of the most middle-range lucrative businesses outside of the kingdoms that are the resorts and casinos that abound the Strip, that abound the old Las Vegas, the old downtown. The gaming industry is a force to be reckoned with in every facet of Las Vegas life, including and not limited to pawn shops such as yours. What, if any, are the evening oblations for the kindred known as Morgan?
see. She gets up, gets ready. She doesn't really take too terribly long to get ready, because that's in the past, unless she absolutely has to. Get up, go around, make her, her rounds, so to speak. Watch for Mr. No Luck Chuck to come through like he does at least once a week. Probably about time for him to come through again. And other than that, just keep her ear to the ground and do what she has to do to get by.
As you're going over the receipts, checking the items checked in, those checked out, bracing for Chuck to swing through with a collection of this or that, it's often a question as to how Chuck manages to obtain the many things that he does, especially being as many times as you've all managed to outright defraud him, lowballing him even lower. There is still a huge amount of value to the items that he pawns, that he trades in, or that he swears that he's going to come back and get in a month or two, or he's going to make payments on this one. Honest, seriously, like I got a line, and I'm gonna. Then you hear it, that telltale, annoying yet somehow endearing sound of, well, I'm not the kind of kiss and tell, but I've been seen with fairer. And you know without a shadow of a doubt whom that warbling, all too off-key voice belongs to. There's only so many people, one, who know that the show exists, and only so many others who would actually care to memorize the lyrics to that particular show. And Ryan comes sauntering and strolling through the back door, his hair swept to the annoyingly, surprisingly, as always, well coiffed. Even with the fading of the light of day, his sunglasses firmly in place.
Now, the important question, is this her Ryan or the other Ryan?
It is your Ryan.
Fabulous. Let's not make things confusing at all. She will smile and chuckle. Anything new tonight?
It would be an abject lesson in how to not lie with any skill if I were to say no. It would be also unbecoming of a gentleman of my standing if I were to not say how lovely you look tonight.
Why, thank you. You say that every night and that never gets old.
Well, my mama always told me it's better to tell the truth than live a lie, and I refuse to live a lie. You know you're, and he just nods over his shoulder, though there's no one there, meaning that he's in fact speaking of Baxter. Done went home and tried throwing his missus out again.
That sounds about right.
Mm-hmm. It is Wednesday. Though this time it is at the behest of perhaps a couple of 2-3 people that there shouldn't be. I would have stepped in, but ain't my fight to fight unless of course you say it is.
No skin off my back.
Good. Let her scrabble in the street for what is potentially hers, after all. Hey, where's Chuck?
Don't know. Haven't seen him tonight.
That is unbecoming. Completely and thoroughly unbecoming. He should have been... He, came into a first edition run of Topps cards. He was here, Baxter tried to underbid and saying that it was only worth 500. I'm pretty sure that checking the blue book, you can get away with easily 3 or 4 times that value and still make a hefty profit.
You're Mr. Baxter. What are we ever going to do with him?
He'll find out where he's getting what he's getting and turn a tap off on him. Because while even, underbidding him at 4 or 5 large, still 4 or 5 large you wouldn't have to pay if you knew where he was getting his so lovely, valuable items.
That is true.
Of course, I didn't mention this to... He, again, nods over his shoulder like the preternatural devil himself is always sitting there on that particular shoulder, meaning Baxter.
Well, we'll figure it out.
And as you say, we'll figure it out. Unfortunately for you, that will and is always the case because the doorbell rings and there stands Chuck. Several forearm length gray boxes stacked one upon the other. The sort of boxes that went out of vogue in the mid 80s, early 90s for keeping baseball cards because, well, while the boxes are nice, it requires each card to be placed in a separate sleeve, which is an additional cost that simply ruin things. It skewed the value of investing. And he adjusts his glasses, looks around. Baxter's not here, is he? It's funny.
Not at the moment.
It's funny. No one ever calls Travis anything except for Baxter. Almost as if what everyone wants to say is bastard. But Baxter will do. I got a line, and these are not heirlooms, but this time I'm going. Look. How much? What's your best offer? I know that I got a couple of gems in here, but whole thing as is, because I plan on coming back and I don't want you to nickel and dime me. So at least I'm thinking 2 large, make 2.5.
Take a look, see what you got.
Whole thing. I don't want to. And as he stammers, stutters, tries to drive up the price by saying it's something he wouldn't want to part with, you already have an idea. He's already spent whatever few hours he's had since leaving here earlier going through the cards inside. So like every kid, that wrapped specially designed to camouflage in with the other is some special little gift, something extraordinarily valuable.
All right. Well, let's take a peek. Just a small one.
And as he's protesting, as he's stammering and attempting to drive up interest, he still is easing closer and closer and finally sets the boxes on the glass counter, making sure that the one in his left is stacked underneath the one on the right, and he makes a presentation. Look, I don't want to nickel and dime you, and I don't want to be nickel and dime, so like they're all in near mint condition, if not in fact mint. And he opens the lid. And as expected, there are reams and reams of baseball cards stacked neatly in individual plastic sleeves. There's just enough room in the box for them to cant slightly enough that you can see the first card. And it is an effort. One, we need to decide whether Morgan actually makes it or not, to keep her immediate recognition from driving the price up higher. Everyone believes that Kindred have always taken pains to make sure that they are not viewed by mortals. That has never been the case. It is growing to be the standard, but for a very long while, sprinkled throughout history, are clear and obvious signs of kindred presence amongst the living. One of which is the card that is sitting there in front of you. And not just any card. A rookie that no one thought anything of, that no one considered of any real value, unless, of course, you and most kindred looking down into that box were present.
Oh, she is, of course, going to do her level best to keep a straight face.
Excellent. Now, would you be so kind as to roll your composure and either subterfuge or persuasion?
Easy enough.
And while you make that roll, and fate lends a hand and decides what course your portion of the evening will fall into, we turn our gaze, point due north. Fancy. Even during your living days, the nighttime was invigorating. Even during the bread and soft gravy years before your arrival here in Vegas, the night was magical. Listening to all of the sounds that everybody else ignored, just out there past the lights. Watching the stars above twinkle and dance, and constructing symphonies and ballets in your head. The night always called to you. That call now is a klaxon, a demand on activity, once more roused to a semblance of living. What, if anything, are your evening oblations?
First and foremost, there is the freshening of her person and artfully applied makeup in shades of green because that's her favorite color. And she dresses for the studio downstairs in a comfortable pair of what she has come to find out are called yoga pants, but they are over a bodysuit, and her dance heels, hair pinned up, and then checking her landline answering machine. She's one of the still uses a landline for obvious reasons, and I guess going through her mail because she would have had somebody slide it through the little mail slot in her apartment door, which is the apartment above the studio.
Junk, junk, junk. Less junk, more junk. Bills always due. And an invitation. Much like Christmas cards or birthday cards sent in the mail, you will always know what they are. There's a certain never-ending style that older kindred have. And being of the blue bloods, there are certain expectations. The black envelope, filigreed in gold, the actual wax seal denoting status. Without opening it, you already know what the invitation is. It is quickly becoming that time once more. There is only 2 weeks until the next Garuja. 2 weeks to gather with other blue bloods of your station and plan the council meeting of the blue bloods of Las Vegas. It is a right. It is an honor. It is a demand of holding what little status and standing you have. A poorly planned Garuja is worse than no planned Garuja, but only just so. Kindred of your level, blue bloods of your rank, must gather together en masse and make the all important plan, right down to obtaining donors that match certain predilections, right down to ensuring the venue's security, right down to ensuring that those of greater status have properly appointed attaches and aide-de-camps to assure their businesses don't suffer their loss for the evening. And once more, it is nearly that time.
That would make her kind of purse her lips and have shows coming up. Didn't need this, but it can't be avoided, so we make the best of it. And she puts it up in the little board she has for things that need her attention with like elastic bands so that she doesn't poke a hole in it. She slides it into the slot where it almost always goes so that she will see it constantly until it's time. And then throwing her cardigan over herself, head downstairs to the studio to see what's going on. Because it's been open most of the day. She has somebody running it while she's dead, but she kind of takes over at night.
There is a expectation when it comes close to time to change hands, to change shifts, that every business has. There are certain rituals and doctrines that take place. For instance, if the change of shift between morning and night prep and line cook in the kitchen, the change of shift between guards on various sentry posts, the handing over of keys for those who need such things. There are always little rituals that make all the sense in the world and no sense in the world for those not really part of that business. So as you head downstairs and Kareen is not there at the lectern at the bottom of the stairs watching the studio and the door, there's a small bit of an alarm raising at the back of your mind. Like, she knows what time it is. There's no... And then you hear her as the clack, clack, clack of shoes designed for dance, those large heels, make contact with the wooden floors. And you hear her voice as she's quietly yelling into the receiver. Anton, I don't care. You don't... Listen, you... Oh my God, what did you... And it's clearly a one-sided conversation with her not being able to get a word in edgewise, which is highly unusual for Kareen. It denotes just how serious the conversation is. She's never one lacking for a response or reply or a sly, subtle twist of a blade verbally. The fact that she's stumbling and struggling to get a word in edgewise, well, hell's bells are ringing indeed.
That will definitely have Fancy kind of head tilt, brow raise. What? Hmm. She carefully, not to spook Kareen, but makes her presence known next to the office, waving for attention.
She finally exasperatedly slams the phone. Fancy! I know, it is time. I'm sorry. This idiot. He's a young, foolish idiot. You know how men are.
It seems like there's probably more than that going on, girl. What's that?
Oh no, I don't think it's much of anything. I'm hoping it's not much of anything. But you know, Anton, with these crazy schemes, he's always finding a reason or some way to put gray hairs into my head. There's. And there's a clear, obvious effort to avoid saying or thinking or actually investing all of the care that you saw flit across her face from letting it show, from letting it fall on your shoulders.
She doesn't need to add anything extra, but she can't let Kareen handle whatever this is on her own. So, come on. Tell Fancy what's wrong.
Taking it that you've known Kareen long enough, and you all have shared many moments throughout the years of working for you. So you know certain buttons to push and certain looks to give. Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll either your manipulation and subterfuge, or if you're going to go full out emotional extortion, it would be your manipulation and leadership to all but demand. So are you going to ease the truth out of her, take the time to doll up the eyes and rub the back and give all of those outward shows of support, or are you going to pull rank, as it were, and demand the answer now?
Definitely going for a softer touch.
Excellent. Well, roll away and let's see what fate decides for the conversation between Fancy and Kareen. And conversation, communication is key in all things, especially when, well, one is a dead thing and has been for a very long time. There is a weight of understanding inherent in being dead and surviving. And while ritual and regularity and conformity is the number one way to wind up dead for living criminals, what, if anything, are Eugene's evening oblations?
Eugene is going to Wake up, easily look around, make sure no one's in the bedroom with him. He's going to turn on the his big flat screen plasma, turn it to Sports Center so he can hear about the games and see what see which teams and the lines that he's actually put in for like the different teams since it's football season. He's gonna go ahead and shower, put on nice cowboy boots, um, really nice slacks, a button-down shirt, a bolo tie, and then he goes. He's gonna check his messages, check his mail, and then look at the calendar to see which payments are coming up that's actually owed to him, and which payments are due. And from there, check his phone for any messages to see if anyone's calling, and if any messages that require his attention. If they are, he'll jot them down, write a note. If they don't and they can wait, he'll deal with it later.
It's quite a lot of activity, quite a lot of balls being juggled all at once. There's everything up in the air and things sliding between moments. There's having to turn the shower off to make sure you heard that right in terms of the score. That cover is blown on that line, and the fact that a triple play, are you absolutely fucking serious? And then the draft choices are just son of a bitch. Yeah, you can't wait till Vegas actually gets their actual basketball franchise, because it seems as if the fix is more than in, and they're fixing the fix at this point. This is absolutely fucking ridiculous. And as you slide from the shower and pick up your mail, your hands somehow not as dishpan as they would be during your living days. It's one of the many things you miss. That extra grip, that wrinkling and pruning of the skin, that outward sign that you are in fact as clean as you will ever possibly be. All of those little things that you never think you're going to miss. You never really contemplate them all that much. But now that they're gone, they pop up into your view and understanding far more often. Much like that, as you sit your mail down and move to play your messages from your actual answering machine, not the digitized form that most people use these days. Fucking cell phones and GPS, and you stare at that black envelope with the gold filigreed seal, that honest to goodness wax seal. It is, in fact, nearly that time. And sad to say, for a grunt like you, you know what that means. Getting with the other blue bloods of your particular station, your particular rank. Listening to what they say and doing what they tell you in regards to the upcoming Garuja. There's a use for muscles. There's a use for a willingness to do. But at the Garuja, unless something goes horribly wrong, there is nothing to do except for what you're told. It is a loss of an evening's income. And yet, without it, not only are you considerably less, but your connections would almost immediately dry up. Your jobs and the opportunity of income would drastically disappear. One thing that many don't realize about your clan, one thing they don't realize about the Blue Bloods, is that they are 100% vindictive and just as equally dedicated to a completion of all of their revenge plots, plans, and asides. So while nothing may not happen immediately, the true revenge may take weeks, months, or years to reach fruition. And in that time, you are sure that every scrap, every crumb of a crumb would be swept from your plate and your table.
Eugene sighs. Oh, fuck, I hate this time of year. His mood is instantly shades darker. He puts it on the calendar, marks it, and makes sure that he knows exactly when to be there, the time, and the place. And then he goes back to the Black Book to see who's owing and how much. And before he leaves the house, he does a blush of life. Wouldn't do to not look well.
That's the funny thing. All roads lead to Rome eventually. And sure as bear shit in the forest, about every 3-4 weeks, you have to pay a visit to the ironclad madam. About every 3 or 4 weeks, someone gains and loses the benefit of having a marker owed to her. And every 3 or 4 weeks, everyone believes or thinks they can get away with it, letting it ride. After all, what's a criminal gonna do? It's not like they can put it on your credit. Har 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 har. And every 3 or 4 weeks, you have several appointments, starting with picking up the little black book of debtors, so that you can make all of the rounds necessary to ensure word spreads. There are just some places it's better to not owe, and there are some places that it is far better to pay in advance.
I hate this part of the job. All right, you know what? Take my bolt. Yeah, keep put the holsters on. Grab my keys. Grab my cell phone. Grab my equipment. Stretch. Head on down to the Jeep. Time to go ahead and make an example or two.
One of the beautiful things about working with professionals, which is what the madam is, you've never had to see her face to face. You've never had to sit in her presence. You've never had to pretend as if you enjoy the scent and touch of the air in places where such things happen. You've never been in the same room as her, but you've been part of her network for the last 5 years. If you were able to take a stand in any of the many cases that she's beaten, you could honestly say that you've never seen her do anything even remotely connected with the many crimes that she's been charged with. This, of course, unfortunately adds a hyper level of complexity. To pick up the Black Book, it is circulated amongst the elite, the old guard, the ladies and men of the night who have either aged out or have taken a retirement of sorts in their own hands. So off you go to the southwestern side of the city. Off you go to places you sort of stand out. And the good thing is that because it does happen with no small bit of regularity every 3 to 4 weeks, you know the address without really thinking about it. You know what house and how well manicured the lawn of cacti actually are. Who would have thought that, you could plant a front lawn filled with succulents and keep greenery year round in a place like this? Because even at night, it's typically hotter than it should be, and far colder to the locals than most would ever give it credit for. It's not quite full-fledged jacket weather, but it is damn close. And as you pull down the street, down the road you've driven months after months after months after months for years, you are a little kerfluffed. Because as you ease down the street, for the first time in forever, you see... Ryan, what does your car look like?
Alright, so it's going to be a... Here we go. Let me get this picture for you. It's nothing fancy. Absolutely nothing fancy. It's a 1990 Chevy Impala. It's primarily black. Maybe I'll post it here in the chat. Boom.
So the sort of car that everyone knows is a former police car. The sort of car that those of a certain understanding immediately go on guard when near. The sort of car that someone who engages in less than legal activity would immediately notice. The question is, does he keep it stock, or did he bother to get rims and put tint on the window? Or is it exactly as it is, a former police model vehicle?
There's a bit of a story behind this car. Specifically in that it's one of his guarded pieces. It is a former police vehicle, specifically one that had to be sold off by its former owner, who, after their retirement and after getting their pension, unfortunately gambled away everything they had, and, well, their former service vehicle, which was retired due to the generations being what they are, was one of the things that, in fact, they had. So as it stands, yeah, it is as it was whenever it came out of the factory. It is a former vehicle, or a former police vehicle.
So Eugene, spying the detective's car sitting outside of the dead drop for the little black book, what does that do to you?
Eugene is already mildly annoyed, even more so now. He sits in the car, keeps the light off, parks down the street, and watches the vehicle to see if it's... he drives by it, makes sure no one's in it. Since it's not tinted, the windows are not tinted. His is, but, that one isn't. So he looks to make sure that no one's actually in it. And he sits and waits until the detective leaves.
Excellent. We're going to use your ability to blend in. Your Jeep isn't too far from street legal, and it's not too far outside of present date vehicles. It's not the newest, it's not the oldest, it's somewhere in the middle, but it is in fact, a nice red Jeep. As you and your mother step into the house, a less than comfy thought about who may have been speeding out of her garage or near her garage, or what she's turning a blind eye to. Some habits die hard, and while your mother had legitimate work, she was one of the best paid background dancers for a while. She was a workman. She was a show horse that actually was able to pull tractors. Again, she never fell, which says a lot, because as far as things go, the higher you go in acclaim and fame, the more likely it is that you will fall. There will always be someone hungrier coming up on your rear, someone sneakier, someone more determined. Yet your mother was able to spot out, scope out, and defend herself against such small intrigues. So as she stops and looks back to where you are coming through her door, do you utilize any of those hard-won criminal skills to keep an eye out on your six? After all, no one knows she's your mother. No one knows you visit. No one should know any of those things. Yet if she's getting involved in even loosely with what you fear, there's a good chance that you are a known quantity in that world.
By dint of, even if he wasn't trying to, I'd say by dint of muscle memory at this point in his life, regardless of whether or not it's his intention, there is a certain amount of paranoid awareness.
Alright, would you be so kind as to do two things for me? Would you be so kind as to roll your Wits plus Drive? And Eugene, would you be so kind as to roll your Composure and Drive?
Okay.
As long as you don't fail, you'll
I believe that's a success on his part.
that is in fact a success on this part. Oh, okay. Sorry, I got a little confused because I looked at the fake casting lots and there was a roll from Gene instead of the rouse, but that works. So the beast did, does what the beast does, and not show up to play properly. So there is a slightly more persistent edge to Eugene stalking. There's a small bit of a whisper of annoyed activity just behind his eyes. And even with the dictates of the beast urging him to, go ahead, run them down, run them over, fuck them. No one bothers to check the bodies of hit and run victims. You can get away with at least a drought or two. Why are we letting them? He eases past as quiet and silent as death. There's no gunning or revving of the engine, and it's just street traffic as he blends in and there's nothing there. It's like hearing your name being called and you realize that you are not in fact the only John Jacob Jingleheimer who's in the area, because his name is your name and your name is his name. Moving into your mother's place, there is a understanding as to what her home, the silence, sounds like. There's an understanding as to what that feels like. And for you, having her here, as annoying as that lack of activity is to her and to you, if you're being honest, there's also the sound of safety, of security. There's the sound of your money doing what her efforts did for you while you were growing up. Provide you with a safe place, free of all of what's just outside of that door. It's impossible to not feel a little proud about that. So, it would be unnatural if Ryan was able to not take pride in the handcrafted leather journal that smells like Aqua de Jo sitting on the counter right there where the mail should be.
Just kind of knowing that she's being cagey right now, just without mentioning it, I'll just kind of walk over and pick it up and be like, so, how have things been going recently? You managed to keep yourself fed well? Do you need me to run out and grab any groceries?
Don't be silly, Puff. Don't you understand? I'm on a diet. I'm just got to keep my girlish figure. Who else is gonna be able to throw out the borders the way that I did? Now, this is for you. And she picks up the mail that should be where the journal was. It doesn't make sense that she would have, and she clearly did because she went right to it. None of the cleaners moved things on her, as she often complains about. It was a purposeful thing. And then she turns to where she knows you are typically sitting, leaning to be exact. This came for you.
This just seems like the kind of... Wait, did she actually, like, go to pick up and has not noticed that she has not picked up the mail?
No, she picked up actual mail. That's where the journal was normally.
Oh, okay,
but
gotcha.
she moved the
I was
mail.
about to say, like... Whew. If this was some one of those, like, forced kind of programming situation, shit was gonna get real fast. Alright, I'll just, I'll gingerly collect the mail and be like, you know, I honestly don't know why they keep sending this here. You can change your address so many times, but they'll still fucking send it.
So
this is what happens when you sign up for too many services.
So you're masking looking at the mail. You're masking what that actually means, because as you look, there is, without a shadow of a doubt, a small bit of dread creeping around the edges. That's the prince's fucking seal.
Mm-hmm. I'm just kind of trying not to get across that I'm stressed about it, but very much like thumbing through to figure out like what the fuck exactly is being delivered to me.
That's the prince's seal, which means whatever it was delivered to the prince and through his proxies down to you, deposited here in your mother's abode, a safe place where they knew you would eventually return. All of that speaks ill to your level of secrecy. It's from, unfortunately, it's from the sheriff. Unfortunately, it is calling in a debt that your line owes the prince. You are indebted by levels of authority and station that remind you, as successful as you have been in the mortal world, that same success has not in fact translated to your new existence amongst the dead.
Mm.
There is a location given. There is a sketched picture given, and there's a name given. One that you know. Your responsibility to assuage all due concerns is to bring the person whose picture that is to the prince's estate as quickly as all due haste provides. They're fucking using you as Uber.
Just, as he's standing there, there's kind of like a huff that goes out as he's reading through it, not as much as he's trying not to let anything get across that he's stressed or whatever. There's just that one sign, and he just kind of looks back to his mom. You ever thought of moving? I've seen a lovely bit of places out there in the sunrise.
The exasperated look she manages, it should be impossible with her not being able to see exactly where you're looking or where you're standing, and yet there it is. Are you fucking serious? Ryan, though, does it look like I'm in the mood to pack all of my shite? I've got it finally exactly where I wanted, and now you want me to put it all in boxes and trundle across the city like some little orphan Annie. To where? To where would you like me, in all of my glory, to carry all of my shite, just because you're having a bit of the heebies and jeebies?
You know, sorry, forget about it. I'll handle my issues on. You just settle in and keep comfy then.
Yeah, I have every intentions. I do have one last thing to do before I lock up for the night, and she moves back through the house without bumping into you somehow, and sits her hand down to where the journal is.
Oh, what's that about? You keeping a journal now?
That's not for me. Don't be daft. What am I going to do? Read myself a bedtime story?
See, this is why I kept telling you to try and learn Braille.
I know something else that my fingers work better on. Would you like me to show you? And she makes a half fist.
Alright, I get it. No reading for you. Well, I suppose it's good enough, but who's you handling that for then?
I'm not. You're gonna do it for me. There should be some gentleman or some lass that's gonna come along. But being as you're gonna be all up in my business, it's best that you actually be of some use. Now sit your ass down on the stoop, and I'll lock up behind you and listen to my shows. When they come along, you hand them the book there and forget everything. Simple.
Fine. You know, this is what I get for caring. This is what I get for coming along and trying to give a helping hand. I get thrown out onto the stoop and told that, you know, the cold night air will be my reward.
You're such a loving son. And she gently slaps your cheek. Now be a dear. Hurry on. And maybe if they're handsome enough of a woman, you might find someone who'll put up with you. I'm not going to be around forever, you know.
That kind of... It does, like... It's one of those moments that you don't know something's going to impact you until it's, like, bluntly stated, but the addressing of her own mortality, given his current situation, does kind of change his expression rather drastically. Although thankfully she's blind, so she can't see that. It just... Alright, well, I'll be back around tomorrow, or the day after, depending on what my business allows. I'll bring you a little gift to make sure that I'm not so poorly received next time.
I could always do with a little bit of a sweet.
That'll work. Well then, you go enjoy your shows. I guess I'm gonna go decorate your porch for a little bit.
There is a wonder and amazement to you that still comes the fact that the moment you step out, she's already at the door. The deadbolt sliding into place audibly. The blinds being drawn. Not that she can see out of them, so there's no reason for them to ever be raised. Yet she somehow, through muscle memory in a new place, has the same ritual and routine she had when you were growing up.
And just kind of as he steps out the door and he's on the porch, and everything's getting locked up and closed up, he just shakes his head and just, I swear sometimes that woman might not actually be blind. I think she's just fucking with me. He says as he casually pulls out a cigarette and lights it up, settling into wait for whoever the fuck's supposed to be coming along.
And therein lies the nature of things. hurry to wait. So as the hurry is insistent, the need is there to hurry along and get to your appointments and tend to your garden of earthly delights and make sure that you're able to steal just enough for yourself, even though you probably shouldn't, even though you know that somehow, some way that they are further dimming your heavenly light. But someone must tend the beast. Someone must make sure that the flock remains as hale and hearty as necessary, so that when it is time to feast, you are able to pluck the fattest, plumpest, juiciest one for yourself. Excuse me.
You okay?
Sorry about that. So Martha, as the bus finally arrives, your neighbors around you, fidgeting, sweating beneath their layers of clothing, because it's clear that they left early, planned on coming home late, and dressed for their idea of the weather, the cool Las Vegas night air. And in that time, your illegal and maintained cell phone just chimes and chimes and chimes. Now, do you actually have the volume up, or do you have it on vibrate?
Probably on vibrate.
If you were living and had those drives, it would most definitely be a far more pleasurable moment for you with the consistency and constant vibration of your phone. Luckily, such concerns are no longer on your menu of items and options. It is in fact just a annoyance, just a reminder as to how far you are debasing yourself and associating with these, well, demons. Just like all the demons around you, here solely and purposefully to weigh down your soul, to deny you the grace that you deserve. When the bus finally arrives and you make it to the hospital, there's a few things immediately obvious. Most people wouldn't call where you work an actual hospital. But then again, most people, even the absolute, abject, poorest of those people, don't need to deal in extra legal activities. They don't need to, well, stay off records. They don't need to make themselves disappear. HIPAA is more than enough protection for their identities. Unfortunately, your hospital is designed by dint of its calling to tend to those who can't be tended anywhere else. And it has taken Dr. Blake a huge amount of indebtedness to various entities, criminal, extra legal, and just down and out, to be able to mendicate to the poor, to offer the services that he does. It's one of the reasons why you all are as overworked as you are, and your inability to be anywhere during the day is tolerated. They need you. The door isn't exactly being beaten off the hinges with medically trained professionals willing to work in off-book hospitals such as this. The facility is actually a public storage. The orange, purple, and sandy brown of its facility, a clarion call to the poor and disenfranchised. You all have managed to turn the top 3/4 of the building into a fully functioning hospital. You are on a staff of exactly 24 medical professionals who work at this off-book location. You bring with you years of experience and a willingness that most others don't. Most of the other doctors and nurses are here because they don't have anywhere else. Most of them have been drummed out of the business for one indiscretion or another. Some never quite finished medical school and have just enough knowledge to be dangerous in a real hospital, but more than enough knowledge to, well, have their services utilized to save, to mend, to heal all number of off-book individuals. Those who can't pay, those who can't get service, those who must remain completely anonymous. It was and is the first of its kind, a full-fledged, full-service hospital that is beholden to no board of ethical standards, no physician's council. It is the brainchild and baby of the only currently licensed doctor in the entirety of the facility, Dr. Blake. So when you arrive, what is your first things to do?
Well, I guess I go find Dr. Blake. Well, actually, I guess first thing, I go find a snack, and then I find Dr. Blake.
And by snack, are you thinking that you're going to divest one of the poor, disenfranchised, and illegal who are in and about the facility?
Well, I was thinking I was going to need a patient, yeah.
Well, that being the case, we're going to do an approximation of your hunting roll. There are certain parameters that you need, certain statuses that you need.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to do a quick approximation. Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your intelligence plus medicine for me, please?
Sorry.
No worries. Technology gonna tech. Or is the technology gonna ology? Anyway.
What's the difficulty?
As high as possible. Is that your final roll?
Is that actually a bestial failure? Let's see.
Okay. That changes things precipitously. Calamity is a friend for most kindreds. Eventually, the beast will have its way with you. Eventually, your own drives will be your worst enemy. It will work tirelessly and ceaselessly to undermine your reason and what flickering sliver of your human self remains. This is such a moment for Martha. Because the moment that she actually enters into the actual facility, she heads in, she goes up the cargo elevator into the actual hospital spaces, and all hell is breaking loose. There are gurney after gurney being moved left, right, up, down, and all over the place. All of the medical personnel are running around like chickens with their head cut off. It is a significant medical emergency to the point where she's able to disappear. She's able to lend a hand here, take notations there, do a little triage there, slip around the corner, and in that, all of that happening, all of that rushing back and forth with the defibrillation paddles, which you know are absolutely useless, and people slipping in and around and off this mortal coil, she knows, just like her beast, just like her darker impulse, just like her drives, now is the perfect moment to divest. And as she's licking her fingers, i.e. the gloves that she tossed on that are covered in the ichor of someone else's life, she knows that no one will ever know what she might be up to. This is the perfect moment to end everyone. She can always plant more flowers in her garden. She can always start a new flock. She can, and as her fangs flake into place like switchblades, and as the monster in her chest makes itself fully known, she wrestles that darkness into enough of a control that she's able to slip away from all of the chaos, from all the rush and scrum. She's able to find Josephine Anderson, an 86-year-old former showgirl who has spent the last 20 of her years working as a masseuse in one of the shops up and down the strip, well, just off the strip actually. She has spent the last 20 years being a helping hand to those in need. Working as a showgirl, there is very little opportunities for pension. Whatever you don't squirrel away, and if you don't squirrel away enough, then too bad, too sad. Josephine has spent the last 2 decades making up for her lost nest egg, making up for all of the money she squandered when she was young and vibrant. And Josephine is here roughly twice a week. The pains in her hand having spread up to her forearm, causing her left arm to lie paralyzed across her chest. Josephine has been on the last steps of that final ride for the last month. Josephine is not well. She has a chronic condition on top of her chronic condition. The first being old age and the second being overworked. It's just her body has had enough. And unfortunately for her body, Josephine's will is far more determined. So she comes, she gets her shots, which prolongs her ability to work another week. Her shots would relax the muscles, causing her hands to be able to open and close under her own power, but which unfortunately put an undue stress on her heart. Josephine sits quietly in the corner, waiting for the emergencies to stop so she can get her shot, and be on her way to slink back to the little hovel she calls home. To go back to all of those memories of when she was young and pretty and vibrant and had the whole world in front of her. She danced in 4 reviews, and despite what everyone says, despite all of the rumors and gossip, she really did dance with Miss Fisher, one of the best performers she actually danced with. She was on several reviews together. Fisher was the number 1 girl, she was the number 2 girl, and my God, the things that they did, how they revolutionized how things were handled backstage, how they, and despite what everyone says about the old wives' tale that, you know, Fancy Fisher was another true crime, she's buried somewhere out in the desert, Josephine says she goes by the dance studio with Fancy's name on it and sees her there dancing with another wave of young girls. No one ever believes her. People look alike, that's all. Yet Josephine swears. And you know, just like no one believes all of her wives' tales about how skilled she was and how she danced, and the people she knew once danced with Elvis. No one believes her. Because after all, what does the old lady who works at the massage parlor know about dancing? You ease into Josephine's space, and you know that her time is mostly here. It's more here than not. And while Josephine hangs on and insists that she remain this side of the coil, her body has decided otherwise. You can smell it on her. No need to check her charts. You can see it in her countenance. This bout of liveliness that she's been having for the last week. She's come in for fewer shots this week. She's been healthier in appearance, sprier, more alert, her eyes dazzling, her smile brighter. You knew it was only a matter of time for her, and your beast and you agree that that time is in fact now. Knowing that what you take from her very well could be too much, even as little as a drop. But it also is what you need. And in this moment, with Josephine quietly off to the side, away from everyone's view, knowing that if you do, you might. Do you bother to stop sipping? Do you bother to end her pleasure out of some consideration as to what happens to her? Or do you drink your fill?
It's a hard choice. I think I'll stop at 1.
The kiss is a magical thing. It's like Tahiti and Disneyland and heaven rolled into a few seconds. The kiss is the greatest pleasure that any mortal will ever have. The kiss takes away all semblances of pain, all senses of guilt, and there's only that pleasure. The penultimate pinnacle moment of one's life, all wrapped up in the 2 little pinpricks of your fangs as they sink beneath the flesh, all wrapped up in that shared moment of contact as you wrap your arms around your victim, all wrapped up in your sense of nothingness and the feel of death in your fingertips. And just as she was nearly rounding that apex, reaching the zenith of her existence, the denier happens all at once. retracting your fangs, releasing her from your grip, the fugue of pleasure fading from that beautifully aged face, that once vibrant, spry form, now shriveled and saggy. The fingers still strong, the leg not nearly so much so. Yet there is a not thanks, not appreciation. There's a quiet, slow nod as her smile spreads from ear to ear, her eyes still closed. You're not sure what it is that she's singing under her breath, but you know there should be a high note right about the seconds pass. The notes don't come. Her breath ceases. The soft, fluttering rise and fall of her chest no longer there. And if you didn't know any better, if you could blind yourself to all the understandings of the human condition that you have learned, if you could ignore all of the signs that were already there, you think that she just fell asleep in the middle of a beautiful dream. You're sure that in those few seconds of your embrace, in those few moments of you two being flesh to flesh and skin to skin, with the taste of all of that coconut scented oil lightly on your tongue, and that's the happiest that she's ever been. Looking down on her body, because her soul isn't there. You can say you're paranoid, or that you're seeing things, or that you're feeling things that aren't there, but the truth of the matter is, you know that her soul is no longer present. You know that Josephine no longer exists. You know that in that small expiring moment that you gave her something that life refused to. Peace. And on that note, it is 18 after the hour. Let's be back at 28 after, and we'll be sliding right along, moving due north, and picking up with the kindred known as Morgan.
Oh, somebody's cracking something.
We have effectively and officially reached the halfway point of our initial prologue of our inaugural episode. So we all have to find our way to celebrate a little bit here. Let our hair down. Get a little wild with it. Everyone back?
Yep. Or at least I am.
I mean, possibly.
Okay, that works.
Yep.
Excellent. It's 3 of our 6. We are at the 50% mark all around. 4 of our 6. 5 of our 6. All right. So, when we stepped away, we had a fleeting moment, a escape, because that's what it is. At the end of the night, at the end of the day, in that small sliver of both and neither, Solo the game is about escape. And for those not so bent towards the Hakata, not so understanding of the myriad of worlds and existences that layer just atop our own, their slow singing, bells ringing, in a dirge-like manner. Because while we never put our finger on it, while we never take the time to understand what it is that we are mourning at the passing of an existence, humankind is selfish. And in those moments, it's not that person, that soul, but our loss of that soul, our loss of those moments that we took for granted. We're mourning our own sadness at our individual loss. We're not embracing their escape, their heavy loads, their light loads, their races run, lost, and tied, their struggles and turmoils. We are embracing our own selfish, I no longer have them. Because at the end of the day, mankind, at its core, is solipsistically invested in their own senses of happiness. And as Chuck raises the lid and Morgan stares down into the face of a kindred that 90% of the kindred community in Las Vegas wouldn't know anywhere. Yes, there's skin there where in present night there is not. Yes, there's a beautifully waxed mustache. There's the youthful brightness around the eyes which now stare wearily out into the night. But you know that face. The name is different, but you know that face. Most people think that the curse of the Vile, the curse of the clan of the Hidden, is solely in what the Vitae does to their body, how it twists and torments them and turns them into things of childish horror. But that is not the curse. The curse kicks into full depth when they are able to stare on, to look on, to visit and view what they once were. When their loss is made most evident. And staring into the box is literally like staring into the face of a blank check. While Morgan herself is not one who clamors or climbs the socio-political ladder of the kindred community, that card alone would help her write her own check. That card alone could be used to justify all manner of exsanguinations and worse. That card alone is sign and proof positive if anyone in the know were to get their hands on it. And Chuck stammers and capitulates and attempts to move past the card. And in that moment, in that heart-pounding moment for Morgan, there's an inkling of an idea. There's a subtle, slow plan in the offing. Music, you know, with lyrics that fade from the tongue as quickly as they get there. The plan forms and swells and changes and shifts. And look, I really don't. Just the whole lot, and I promise, I promise, I'll make sure to make payments early. To just like I plan on getting this back, okay? So I don't need that much. Like, I'm not asking you to break the bank or anything. I just.
Morgan will let her eyes soften and give him a gentle smile. One that he's probably seen several times. Well, you've convinced me, Chuck. That
I did?
Yeah. Well, maybe not quite so high, but yeah, I'll buy them.
Like the whole thing, not like just one or two.
The whole lot.
Okay. Three, five, six.
We'll say 4.
Okay. For the full month, or do I get extra time? Cause he looks down at the box, then back up at you.
We'll say 6 weeks.
Oh, okay. I mean, but if you think that's best, yeah. We've got a deal, and he offers his hand.
Ryan, will you be a dear and write this up?
Well, sure thing. And the bell rings. The door sweeping open. Gentleman about 6'2", maybe 6'3". Hard to tell from this distance. Wide as two men shoulder to shoulder. Walks in. His coat looks heavy. His boots look heavier. Like the rank tourist or most arrogant of posers, he's sporting a pair of sport shades on his mustached and bearded face. His dark, almost black hair with flecks of sun-kissed brown floating between it. Instead of doing the usual, which is coming in and glancing at all of the wares and running fingers along this and touching that and threatening to play Stairway to Heaven on one of the many guitars there closer to the door, farther away from the actual amp. He slips both hands into his pockets and just waits by the door. Chuck looks over his shoulder at him, then back at you.
Now you know Riot's gonna take good care of you, Chuck. You need to go help this young gentleman over here.
Ryan looks at the guy, looks at you, and then moves with the receipt pad so that he's at the midway point of the building, immediately causing Chuck to nervously move further and further from his box of cards. Because after all, if you're not going to take care of him and Ryan's going to do all of the work, that means that the money's with Ryan. All fear seemingly lost. All stammering quieted as he avariciously waits for Ryan to begin filling out the receipt and getting the money together for the check that he's going to cash all at the same time. Just to keep track of things, make sure that he has a proper ticket and tag. And the gentleman by the door stands and waits, hands in pockets.
And Morgan will mirror his body language with her hands in his pockets. standing up just maybe a little straighter than she normally would. What can I do for you?
I'm not entirely sure just yet. What's in the box?
Some sports cards. They're not for sale yet, of course.
Of course. He brought those in here.
He did.
You know where he got them from.
Personal collection, so I hear.
He say where he came into contact with that personal collection.
It's not my job to ask.
You often truck in obtained items.
I buy and sell many things.
Excellent. How much you buy that for?
Think it's not done yet.
How long until he's done?
Maybe 15 minutes or so. But again, like I said, can't sell it quite yet. There are some legalities we have to watch out for.
Of course there are. And he looks towards the usual places. The corners of the ceiling. The trimming along the nearest wall, then the farthest wall. Then his gaze slowly works his way top to bottom, finally landing directly on you. 15 minutes, huh? I'll be back. And he turns on his heels and leaves. There are certain behaviors that instinctually trigger a natural, almost autonomic response. If you were to put your finger on what is triggered by the presence of such a dark-clad, monosyllabic individual asking pointed questions, what would you say that might be?
Giving her line of work, detective, but judging by his apparel, detective adjacent. Not necessarily on the legal side.
So as Chuck receives his ticket, receives his check, which is cashed immediately, and the cash is given to him, are there any preparations, any additional moments that Morgan is taking?
She would likely escort him to a side door that he has used previously, you know, the one where if you have a lot of cash you might not want to go out the front door or the back door.
There's something about pawn shops that generally deters direct actions against. Even in places such as Las Vegas, where they are as eponymous as Family Dollar, Dollar General, Walmart, Target, where they are literally everywhere. Several sitting right next to each other in some cases. It's typically a place of refuge of sorts. It's filled with desperate people doing desperate things to obtain another leash on life, another hit of that drug of money. Yet they are very seldomly targeted. So when they are, it is generally with overwhelming force. It is generally with advanced knowledge. And it is generally a blitzkrieg sort of situation. Skillful execution of a focused plan. Know what you're going for, know what you're getting, know how quickly to get out. Response times of Las Vegas PD is roughly 4.5 minutes. 3 minutes for gunfire. 7 minutes for fire. So that's your window of opportunity. That's the rough amount of times that professional criminals understand they have from notice. So as Chuck leaves, and you and good old Mr. White have the cards in your shop, is there anything that Morgan is doing?
Right into the safe. In the back room.
Do you leave Mr. White to man the counter while you see to the securing of things?
I sure do.
Would you be so kind as to roll for Mr. White? Would you roll your wits plus awareness plus 1? Your DC is 4.
Oof.
Right?
Fate is a cruel mistress. And not because she is purposely targeting humankind and by extension kindreds for the ire of her humor, but simply because she doesn't care. Much like the old aphorism of man plan, God laughs, fate is equally as tickled pink by the ideas that humankind and by extension kindred kind make plans from the outset. The merest suggestion of such a thing causes fate to hold her sides and let out the most raucous, ribald laughter one has ever heard. And in this case, Ryan, who immediately began singing the theme song to Fall Guy, who immediately makes sure that he places his body between anyone that might be walking in the front door and the little side door towards the back office where the big safe is, where you can put rifles and shotguns. You can, honestly, if you're being honest, squeeze in 4 average size adults if you empty the shelves. It's a big solid thing made back during the late 40s when they considered wrought iron light work compared to the huge amount of disinterest in personal safety they had when making such things as safes and boilers and all manner of other metal objects and substances. So it takes 36 seconds to hand crank the combination into the safe, to swing the 126-pound door open. 36 seconds. In that time, you should be able to, well, start a song. In that time, you should be able to have the door open and step inside with whatever it is that you're depositing. In that time, all hell breaks loose. There's no explaining how quickly the screams start, except for as the clank of the bar being withdrawn from the safe slams home, meaning you can pull the door open. Ryan begins screaming. You've only heard him yell twice. Once in pleasure, and once when his chute didn't open on a helicopter stunt he was doing for some TV series. Luckily, Ryan's an expert swimmer and managed to pull it off, but in that moment, there was an instinctual will to live that caused his voice to, well, do what it's doing now. Safe open, box in hand, Ryan screams. What is it that Morgan is doing?
She gently chucks the cards into the safe and slams it closed. And and just kind of saunters her way out.
Slow and steady. Steady and slow. Stepping out of the back room. There are several ways to attempt to understand the way that the world bends and shifts. All of them would be horribly, completely, and totally wrong. Because as you exit the back room into your standard, common, usual abodes, that is not what you are greeted with. The floor shifts and melts, and there on the floor, reeling and writhing in pain, hitting his elbow and slamming his knee and otherwise working frantically to put out the flames all about him, is Ryan. Standing there in the center of the floor, two men with gas masks and long leather trench coats and pointing their flamethrowers at Ryan. And the moment you step out into your space, into your abode, into your domain, they have the unmitigated gall to attempt to try to set you on fire as well.
Well, they.
So, what is your first instinctual response as you see Ryan being flambéed and then attempting or preparing to turn the arc of all of that horrid heat in your direction?
She is going to draw herself up into all of her 5'5" height glory. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
So she's going to attempt to talk the fires out?
I mean, she can be a little intimidating.
Okay. Would you be so kind as go ahead and roll your Composure plus intimidation. Contest it.
Well, that one's better.
It sure is.
That's a great roll. What are you talking about?
I mean, it's not as great as my first one.
Truly, nothing can top that.
Right.
What does fate say? Oh.
Oh, ouch.
You challenge them with the full authority and majesty of ownership. You challenge them as only someone who owns property does. You are entitled to feel safe in your castle. And this is in fact your castle. You are the liege lord here. This is all that, well, it's yours. How dare they? But fire, like bullets, are not stopped with a severe, sharp lashing of tongue. Fire, like bullets, is deaf, dumb, and blind to the pleas of the powerful and those deserving of mercy. Fire, like bullets, passes their own judgment on things. And as you summon up the full weight of your presence, as you challenge them to fuck around, they find out just how flame retardant you are. As you draw their attention, they were already moving the arc towards you from Mr. White. They continue in their motion, and the flamethrowers settle in your general direction. You see the little dribble of fuel from the nozzles, as instead of like the amateurish grenadiers that you've seen on movies and in black and white TV shows holding the trigger down and spraying in these huge gouts of flame, no, they're using it much like one would fireball. That way only what they're aiming at is completely destroyed and immersed and engulfed in all of that gloriously red or orange pain. Would you be so kind as to roll 1/3 of your humanity plus your unspent willpower as the world in front of you explodes in, well, flames. Your view, your vision filling with all of that monstrously destructive heat, all of that bright, shining otherness, which is the smaller, younger twin to the one thing that is sure to destroy every kindred. Fire.
Assuming my keyboard cooperates with me, that is. Take that.
Hoorah. The Rostrek, the naturalistic jewel frenzy that is caused with the mirror's brush and mirror's kiss of fire does not possess you in your heart. It does not take control. It doesn't force your reason to flee from you. The knowledge that you are going to be immolated is a fact. It is the truth of your existence in this moment. But instead of your reason escaping you as the fire rushes you, what is it that you do?
She is going to duck and cover and make her way as quickly as she can to the fire alarm.
Excellent. What is Morgan's dexterity and athletics? Just total.
3. She does have cat's grace, if that matters.
Yeah, she's not frantic. Her movements are smooth as silk. She is the very definition of poise under fire, both figuratively and literally. As the flames dance overhead, 1 puff, 2 puffs, 3 puffs, just blasting away like they have all day and all night, and as much fuel as one could possibly ever hope for to accomplish their goal. Who the fuck brings a flamethrower to a pawn shop? Moving towards the fire extinguisher, the roar of flame dancing all about. We shift our focus to another moment of fire and turmoil. There's no way with what Fancy knows that Corinne should crack or break or offer anything that she did not mean to, and yet I don't want to bother you, Fancy. It's my son. Even though Anton, you've seen him. He comes occasionally, brings me lunch, and he's gotten involved with several people he shouldn't. He has done several things that he shouldn't over the years, and what he does just builds and builds and builds. And don't take this the wrong way, but he's hanging with this black guy at the flea market. And this guy, I'm telling you, he's bad news. He does all of this close-up magic, and I've seen him once or twice with, our troubled child. But I didn't think anything of it until Anton started, well, there was a robbery he was involved with. They took some things. And this black guy, this guy from the flea market, this up-close magician, was supposed to get his cut. There was something he wanted. And Anton lost it. And a card came. And this guy is going to come collect. He hangs out with this monster. He pals around with this guy. I mean, this is just bad news all around. She looks at the ground and pauses and shakes her head like she's done, like she's answering a question that she didn't ask. And she moves to her coat. and your already still blood begins cooling by the second. Because Corinne is an ex-dancer. She's strong, competent, understands her body and how to move without any tremulation. No shakes, no jitters, none of the usual physical pauses and actions that others have through lack of exercise and lack of body control. But her fingers, she goes to her coat. And Anton gave this to me this morning and said that he would pick me up. I didn't think about it. It's just whatever. But now I think it's actually very, very important. And she pulls the most innocuous thing. It's just more paper. It's a small leather-bound case to hold a notepad. The old detective style leather holder for a notepad that fits inside. She turns and hands it to you. You smell the age on it. You've seen something like this several times over. It is the real deal. It's not that fall leather grain that they put on paper. It's not that thin pleather stuff. This is the real deal. This is hand cut, sewn, and stitched leather. The inside suede as only real leather can. And the page is yellowed with age, filled with a fairly perfunctory script. Just line after line of it. Little notations and stars. A dash here, a slash there, 2 stars on that one, a filled in black star on that one. And she hands it to you. And you know that there is no way that she would have broke. You know that there is no way that you convinced her. Yet here it is. All the same.
In a very deep sigh, she carefully holds the leather binder and then puts the other hand on her second in command's shoulder. I can't make any promises, but let me talk to the boy and see if he will listen to me a little more than he listened to you. I can maybe find out more about this close-up magician, and I need to talk to Raven anyway. I'll see what I can do. But you go home, rest your feet.
I'm sorry, Fancy. I really am. I don't know. I don't have anyone else that could help. I'm sorry.
No. Don't need to be sorry. I need you at your best. Somebody's got to keep these girls in line during the day. We're okay, I promise. And she kind of carefully turns her towards the door and not shoves, but just give her a little push. Go home and rest.
So as the door closes and you're done giving your number 2 the rock bottom, what is it that you managed to accomplish?
I am going to look over this note or the notes with a much more practice eye. Have I seen something like this before? Does this make sense to me?
Yeah. Yeah, you had.
Do I recognize this particular?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And you wish that you didn't. Because you see names on there that you know have not existed in Vegas for at least 30 years. At least not in a position of power. But it's not just those names that's problemsome. It's not just those names that cause a moment of pause. You know that Miss Lozano has a reputation. She has a reputation as being untouchable. Partially because her business is kept, largely anonymous. Nothing falls back to her. But being in Vegas as long as you have, you were there before the public was made aware of her. You were there when the previous firm that Ms. Lozano has managed to multiply and grow exponentially was in operation. You were there when the foundations for what Ms. Lozano turned into a multi-million-dollar enterprise was run out of a few hotels, a few small actual hotels. Not the hotel, casino, resorts that are the fiefdoms of some of the most powerful conglomerates and families. Not the new mega that is the face of Las Vegas, but when the motels and hotels along the outer edge before the airport was completely finalized as it is in its newest form, back when Vegas was still a place where dreams could come true. Not just that people came bearing them, but when Vegas was building itself into a place where dreams came to die. The little hotels and drive-in motels spread along a little strip of road here and there that managed to maintain and still operate with no small amount of business, partially due to the organization that Ms. Lozano took control of, partially due to the overflow from the various other madams and pimps and users of all sorts, where books like this were kept for a case of rain. It was the ultimate burn book to keep certain individuals from ever having to face the retribution for their actions of exploiting flesh and minds of all kinds. But the fact of what it is not the problem. The fact of who's in there is. You don't know every kindred. In fact, you do your best to, outside of the blue bloods, to just memorize faces, because either they'll last long enough where their name begins to matter, or there's no point or no reason to even bother remembering their name. But with names like Rise Angel, Jen Harris, Avery Parker, Demir, Marquise, with names like Augustine Krakowski. This needs to be burned. It is unparalleled, without a shadow of a doubt, power, but not in the way that most people would understand. It is a list of Johns, but not Johns simply for flesh, but Johns of blood. You can see and read the very thinly veiled Stars, that's a special girl, a special blood type. The slash is someone who failed to find what they were looking for. The minus, someone who isn't worth continuing to provide for. The 3 stars, oh, that's someone who's an up-and-comer, because you realize that up-and-comers typically are blue bloods. Even without trying to, you all climb and ascend the social hierarchy because that's your place. That's where you all belong. Even as much as you hate the weight of your blood, what has caused you to be as you are is that there's a natural buoyancy built into the systems of dignitas and tried and true form and function efficiencies that almost through osmosis lend themselves to your care. And here you are with a book that's been stolen from someone who is at least nominally aware as to what you all are, your special clients.
Cursing softly, repeatedly. She to get rid of this thing, but I can't get rid of this thing because at the same time, shit. And then she goes to the hidden safe she only keeps in her office. Not the safe for the money that, runs the business, but the one with all her real paperwork. Opens it and puts that in there. And then rolls the rug back over it.
Would you be so kind as to roll your wits and streetwise, or your intelligence and larceny? As high as you possibly can. What did she say? Thinking back to what did she say? What did she actually say? What she said wasn't exactly what she communicated, but the devil's in the details. Her stepson, did a job where he was supposed to provide a thing to a specific someone. There's a hierarchy to crime. And petty theft, breaking and entering, isn't that high, but it becomes of higher value based on who you steal from. And the organization that Ms. Lozano's present organization grew from, based on the notes that you were able to decipher, based on the code, is one that catered to kindred. Which violates what?
The masquerade.
Unless
they are Gould or slated for being transformed.
which means that her son-in-law, your touchstone's touchstone, committed a robbery of either a kindred or related kindred, paid for by someone who knew what they had to offer, which makes them either a kindred or a witch hunter. But either way, your touchstone's touchstone literally crossed a Rubicon and is dealing with, around, or against kindred in one of the most surveilled, secretly surveilled cities in the world. People don't bother to count the hundreds of thousands of cameras that are in operation in Las Vegas because they are always in out of the way places. There's ATMs, there's shops, and there's that facet, but there are also the hundreds of thousands in each of the casinos. Hundreds of thousands. Some casinos even have the employees walking around with cameras on their person that they don't even know are there. Your touchstone's touchstone robbed a kindred in one of the most surveilled cities. Your touchstone's touchstone did something that will attract all manner of attention to them, and by extension, you. Because where does his mother-in-law works? Oh, where his stepmom works. Stepmom works for you. And what are the chances that his phone wasn't tapped? What are the chances that someone wasn't listening in to find what they were looking for? What are the chances that right now there aren't men with guns or worse on their way?
She is going to call Ryan.
So she picks up her receiver and begins dialing. And as she's dialing, Eugene, another night, another 15 cents. And as you sit and watch the police car sitting in front of the drop house, as you sit and wait for some officer, some detective, some well-meaning civil servant to disappear, you watch as Ryan settles in and lights up a smoke. From where you're sitting in your car, you can see the police car in front, you can see the front porch, and you can see the lights on the first floor of the drop house going off.
Is that a code that I should be aware of, such as if the lights are flickering, kind of a don't, if the lights go out, don't, or is that like a code as in lights out, close for business?
Typically, if the lights are not on, that means that the drop either already happened or she's going to bed. You've spoken with Lori once or twice over the last few months. Nice lady, as far as such things go. She reminds you of a different time. She could easily, if she was 20 years younger, be the equal to any of the film malls that you've seen. She could easily be, an accompaniment to James Cagney. She easily could have, outclassed Marlene Dietrich in a everyday worker day sort of way. She's got a tough jaw, nice, strong. Clearly she's worked out or has begun working out. And not that you are bothered by such inclinations anymore, but if you were still living and vibrant, There is no way that you wouldn't consider her your very own Miss Robinson. She's got that ineffable quality
Think
that
about her.
yeah, it's something there. She's tougher than she should be. She's graceful without being ostentatious about it. She's seemingly all knowing, even though you could swear that there's something wrong with her eyes. Like you've seen her move through various lights and her eyes don't seem to respond, yet she seems to know what's around her. And she doesn't walk with the cane, she doesn't fumble along the side of anything, but her eyes don't seem to dilate the way that you would expect. It's unnerving, actually. It's like nothing affects her.
Well, that could just be because she's kind of good at her business. Since he's there, I'm gonna take a chance. That makes it drop, but I'm the one picking up the drop, so no one should have picked it up. Fuck. He turns off his engine, get out, locked his door, and starts the walking up to the over to Ryan. Since he's in front of the house, that's kind of a weird thing. I have to work that out a little bit later. Walks up to Ryan, kind of with that good old Southern charm. Hey, hello, Ryan.
The fuck are you doing over here?
Hey, you been over here long?
Aye, but what are you doing here?
I'll get to that in a second. You see the cop car over there? How long has it been here?
Looks at his watch. Like 20 minutes.
Did you see who got out?
Yeah.
Did you see where they went?
Oh yeah, no. Followed them.
You followed them?
Yeah, no. We were basically walking on the same steps.
Oh. Where'd they go?
Here.
Do you know what happened?
Yeah.
Hey, care to clue me in?
Sure.
Anytime you're ready.
I mean, I feel like I already did, didn't I?
No. Where are the cops at?
I don't know. Maybe down at the precinct. Maybe at the fucking coffee shop getting a donut. Maybe they're in the back room of some bathroom fucking each other. How should I know?
Well, if you followed the cops from the car to here, where are those cops?
Wait. You think that's a police vehicle still?
Well, it looks like a cop car. Smells like a cop car.
Hell yeah, but like that model's been retired for like fucking 10, 15 years.
It smells like bacon.
Hell, suffice to say, it's not a policeman's car, it's my car.
Oh. Cool. Well, in that case, it's a lot better. It's the missus home.
And at that, like, his attitude just very quickly shifts visibly. And what's it to you?
He has something of mine that I need.
Why has she got something of yours?
That's kind of personal, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's kind of personal what business you've got doing here. Something I've asked you twice now, and I'm about to do a third time.
She has something of mine. I'm here to pick it up.
Alright, alright. What is it?
Boy, it ain't my drawers. I
You know, I'm quite glad that you're in a joking mood.
Well, you strung me along about a cop car.
Well, yes, that's before I knew that you were here to see my mum.
I'm glad I didn't say what I was thinking. There's
Yeah.
a book of mine.
I'm quite glad you didn't either. A book? Like a journal?
Yeah.
Alright.
But she's closed for business, so I need the journal.
Wait, she running business out of here? What the fuck? Real quick, before we move on to anything, Eugene, what exactly does she get up to?
You know how when you actually have a book, you have to give a book, you gotta get the stuff out of the book and then you go about your business?
Kind of, yeah, no, we're talking about like a dead drop.
Yeah, that's what you kids call it, yeah. Back in my day, it was minding your fucking business, but yeah, you called it a dead drop, yeah. So I need the book. But her lights are off, so I need the book.
No, but if I'm remembering correctly, I have said book, right?
Yep.
Alright. And, may I ask how often you come around here?
Whenever I'm called to come and get a book.
Anybody else come around here? You know, like specifically, tall, dark, and uglies.
And the moment that you
How
say
the fuck
that,
should I know?
the moment that you say that, tall, dark, and ugly, strolling up the path right behind Eugene is Deli Slice. Deli Slice is a rough and tumble sort, meaning that he does whatever he's told whenever he's told. He's the go-between, typically, for Primogen Victoria, who is the orphan Primogen, as she's called. She is responsible for those who have no voice in Las Vegas. Going to her gives you some political voice with the powers that be. Oftentimes, that voice is literally, mercy, 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 don't kill me. I may be Kata, but I'm not doing anything to fucking bother anybody. Or, I'm a thin blood, but I've been branded already. Whatever you need, I'll do. Just don't kill me. Typically. She's kind of like the Court of Appeals to save the hand of Montrose's army. She's the relative voice of reason to keep Montrose's militias, his group of hounds, his Night Stalkers from doing horrible things to kindred who probably aren't worth the effort. And her go-between, Deli Slice, who operates as her left hand of doom, who calls in her markers, who is nominally also part of Montrose's militia, is strolling up the path. He's not hideous enough to be a Nosferatu, but he's what a CW, WB, teen drama-based TV production would view as a Nosferatu. He has clear-cut signs of his skin being burned or otherwise scarified, but it's artistically done. Looks like someone took a heated beer mug and pressed it firmly against his first right, then left eye. The scarred and bubbled flesh healing into this almost sunglass-like scar above and below across the bridge of the nose. Other than those small imperfections and him being extraordinarily thin for his height, it'd be hard-pressed to see him as anything related to Nosferatu, yet there is clearly some connection. Because as always, even with all the jangly bits about his well-used coat, he still is wearing buttons from the late 80s. A series of them up and down the left breast. There's Thriller, there's Billie Jean, there's Billy Joel, there's Kiss, there's several other bands that have long since been defunct, and not so much as a swish of cloth is heard.
Alright, well, we having a fucking house party down here or something. What are all of you people doing? You know what? Never mind. I've got your book. What are you doing here?
I'm actually looking for a box. And one of the people responsible for the box was seen fleeing this place about 30 minutes ago or so. You wouldn't happen to have seen a blacked out, murdered out sedan speeding away from this area? Did they toss anything out?
Yeah, I mean, I heard them heading off that way about 20 minutes ago, but didn't think anything of it.
You shouldn't. It probably doesn't concern you. Hopefully it doesn't. Did they toss anything out of their car?
No, I was already in this portion of the building by the time it happened. They went out the garage. You can check around there if you'd like.
They went out of your garage?
The garage, yeah.
You wouldn't happen to have the key, so I don't have to break the lock, would you?
Sure, follow me. And as for you, Gene,
my book?
here you go. Yeah, no, I was getting to it. He pulls it out of his coat and hands it over. That is not for you. Why?
Wait a minute. Can I see that?
No.
Why not? You got something to hide?
No, but it's not yours.
It's not yours either, otherwise he wouldn't be giving it to you.
Well, actually, it is mine, and that's why he's giving it to me.
It's yours.
So it will be mine, and now you need a box. This isn't a box, so go find your box.
Is that how you're gonna treat an old friend, Eugene? Okay.
I'm trying to be really polite, Deli Slice, but this is business. And you know there's always a line between business. I'm not looking for your box because it doesn't concern me. It ain't my box.
Yeah, and he points toward the journal. Whose symbol is on that little doodad there?
Looks at the journal.
It's the usual.
It's
It's a embossed skull with a ring around it. The same that would easily be looked over because it seems like something that would be a prop for some game or another. It's designed that way on purpose that no one would really pay attention to it. But it's also...
okay, but what does it mean to him?
That's a good question, because it's clearly part of the Lozano organization. It's clearly, for you having been involved with it, a symbol that this is in fact the right thing.
Well, Deli Slice is not art. It's not business of the blood. So
That's not true.
I'm failing to see how this has anything to do with your box. But I do know this is how I make my money, though.
Okay. That's fine. So, when this shit hits the fan, and it will hit the fan if I don't find this fucking box, just remember I did ask nicely.
Now, if y'all would like to, owe me one later, I'll throw in and we can look around the garage and see if we can find your box.
Nah, that's fine. I don't give a shit. As I'm doing as I'm suggested. And whatever comes down on you, it comes down on you. Like I said, you got me outnumbered, and ain't no skin off my nose. I'm just saying,
Oh, no,
helping an
come on,
investigation.
Delicate. You know me and you.
I'm just saying, helping an investigation into a potential breach always looks better than being I would have looked, but he wouldn't let me. So how about this? Show me into this garage, Hughes.
Alright, come along, and if you two decide that you want to get down and bloody, please get off the property.
Nah.
Nah.
I wouldn't do that. After all, not like Montrose is known for his subtlety. So when he sends someone, they'll be screaming and fire and people dying. But for now, it is what it is. Show me this garage real fast. We're looking for a box about, and he starts making the dimensions of it. It should be white, and it should be 6 of these.
Alright. Well, let's fucking look for it then. He goes around the side. Just kind of mentally chiding his mother for being involved in some really crazy fuck shittery and reconsidering whether or not he cares about her opinion of moving.
That's it. You're out of here no matter what you decide. Yeah. Here's the funny thing. As you all near the garage and start rooting around, slowly easing down the street, lights off, with both of you being bent towards that sort of thing. Your attention is on the street. So as the uniformed police officers in their standard mobile command center, that is their standard SUV with their internal screens lit up, as they're running tags and licenses and easing down the street, there's a spidey sense that all criminals have, because the only way to survive in crime is being not only wary but willing. So the police easing down the street, running tags, as you all 3 less than scrupulous looking individuals sneak around a garage in the early portions of the evening. Can only imagine what that might in fact look like.
Oh. Fun.
So we all 3 see this vehicle, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I'm not tall enough to shield. Hey, y'all, I don't know who brought the bacon, but it's creeping down the street. We probably gonna have to split up. Maybe y'all want to meet around back?
Yeah, you'll do what you're gonna do. If they're watching this place, they've seen me here more than once, so...
And I make sure they don't see me at all. So I'm gonna get in the car and see. And once they turn the corner, I'll meet y'all back there.
All right, see you there.
Eugene walks towards his car, gets in.
Moving across the street towards your car. There, again, that spidey sense, that wariness, it is rattling and jangling the nerves, because in doing so, you'd cross the street in front of the car. Nothing out of place about that, but there's still the fact that you are armed. There's still the fact that it's clearly not your neighborhood. There's the fact that the police, who are just running tags, or so they seem to be running the tags, based on the lighted computer screen illuminating their faces. How's your color vision in the dark? How would you rate it? Good, average, i.e. what's your wits?
Oh, amazing!
Barely present.
So it's a known fact that um, ladies, have a better color vision. It's just a factor of life and the science working against everyone. They can tell the difference between pumpkin and an orange ochre. They can tell the difference between mauve and violet. Cerulean blue is not the same as peacock blue. And being smart enough to wear a facsimile of a police uniform that is just a hair off in color, from a distance looks fine. Especially if you mock up a counterfeit version of Las Vegas PD vehicle. Correct color stripe, all the lettering looks right. The rig on top, however, has changed several times over the years. The lighting rig, the emergency lights, which is illegal for any other vehicle to have. Though you can get a facsimile for tow vehicles and the like, that will come close from a distance, unless of course you're paying attention to the fact that the color of the uniforms are not accurate. No Las Vegas police personnel wears black uniform shirts or ties. Dark brown with a light lapel on the right side of the uniform. In the dark, it looks similar enough from a distance, but as you all, i.e. Ryan's heightened acuity, and Eugene crosses in front of the vehicle, notice that there's a small differentiation. That's a very huge one. And Deli Slice does what Deli Slice does. Ceases to be present where anyone's looking for him. Silently gone in a puff of smoke and vanished like a misspoken word. This is effectively the moment where the frying pan tilts and all of the slick preparations leading thus far cause what's inside to fall politely and quickly into all that flame, having heated it. There's a conspiracy afoot, and you've all literally stepped right into it. Because as you cross in front of the car stops. The microphone is used, the loudspeaker.
Where are you fucking going?
What?
Eugene puts his hands up as to show, like, don't shoot. Sorry, go. He gets out the way of the car. Apologies.
The passenger is still running plates, running numbers, and your heart skips a beat because they're looking at the detective's vehicle, the bubble, sitting there and motioning towards the house. And your phone goes off.
I got
Ryan.
my book, so.
Oh, okay. I'll pick up the phone. Just kind of one hand, because I heard the fucking megaphone go off, right?
Yes.
One hand up, the other hand just kind of holding the phone to my ear. Hello?
Oh my God, Ryan. Please tell me you're not busy right now. Something...
No,
I've got a problem,
continue.
and I'm a little worried about what's going to be coming towards my shop because, see, I got my hands on something that I probably shouldn't have, right? So, I'm hoping you can come by.
Alright, what particular problem did you run into?
A friend of a friend took something they weren't supposed to.
Oh, okay, cool. Does it have to do with the police?
You hear slamming car doors as they exit the vehicle.
Oh no. All right. Well, sorry, love, but I've
No.
got to deal with some problems on my side.
Okay, we'll get here as soon as you can, okay?
Yeah, sure. Will do. Click.
And as the line goes dead, Mrs. French, watching someone die is never a comfortable thing for various reasons. We all squeamish about it. We know the circle of life and so on and so on. If you've lived through that before, watching a lesser species die doesn't stop the fact that you're watching a pet effectively cease to be. So even as you purposefully stopped, even as you presented the opportunity for life to continue, for this moment to not be defining for their existence, they still didn't have the strength, the wherewithal to continue with the natural punishment of being born into this hellscape.
Yep. It's heavy.
And the hustle and bustle of the hospital doesn't stop. You can still hear all of the motion and commotion back there, around the corner, down the hall, floor above you. These old walls, these stone pillars aren't the best at minimizing the effects of sound. But even as all of that hustle and that bustle is happening, a stone's throw from where you are, in this moment, it is literally just you and her, or the absence of her. In this moment, not to put too fine of a point on it, you're looking at someone who's escaped all of the hell that was coming their way, all of their just desserts. They were nearly, potentially, possibly, but no, they're gone. And there's no way, even with her time on her, that those two pin pricks that are still leaking the last few dribbles of her existence down her neck into her shirt, that would not be seen as something notable.
I'll have to deal with it as it comes, I guess. I'll deal with it myself for the body and try to minimize anything suspicious about it.
So you lean in and lap at those two pinpricks. You lap at the last few dribbles of her existence. And through the blessings of Cain, your saliva slowly mending the outside of those wounds, causing those wounds to simply cease to be. Close enough that you can inhale the scent of her last breath. Close enough where you are able to take in all that she was in those last few moments and the life that led her there. Her skin is already cooling. Her blood already congealing on the tongue. Her left arm paralyzed from overuse and time clutching against her side, that diary, that book, the book that she carried with her in a shoulder holster pressed firmly against her body at all times, is sitting there.
I suppose we'll take a peek.
Taking a peek is the number one way that the cat died. Curiosity does many things. And as you open the book, as you skim the notes there, as you skim the layer upon layer of handwritten memories, there's no way that this person, this woman who's lived her life as she did, but there it is. Fancy Pudinesca. And the address that you kind of incidentally know. It's a well-regarded industry secret. The Fancy Fisher Performance Academy. It's a old wives' tale as far as most people are concerned, but it's where dancers and entertainers of all sorts, if you want to be anyone or think you have what it takes to become someone, it is the first step on your road to virtually unlimited success. There's a correlation there because it's the Fancy Fisher Performance Academy address, Fancy Pudinesca, and the Lozano residence. You don't feel bad about ending her. It's sad and it happens, but you don't feel bad about ending her. What makes you worried and what causes a tremulation of concern, taking another kindred's mortal, no matter how end of the line they were, no matter how close to crossing over they were, is akin to theft and handled as such. People get all worked up about it. People get bent out of shape, especially if it's her second or third hand. If they can point a finger at someone, they definitely will. And let's just call it what it is. The last thing you or this hospital needs is for some angry kindred to start raising hell. The trick is always never to do crime when you're doing crime. But here it is in her hand, signs pointing to her involvement in and around the kindred community.
Well, I suppose there's nothing for it but more atonement. I'll have to go seek out Miss Fisher.
What a night. What a night. Leaving the hospital and heading points due elsewhere towards the academy. Is there any preparations or considerations that Martha is preparing or making or doing?
I'd probably just take a ride share over.
Very nice. Always a good thing. You should always make sure that you arrive safely and in good time and good comport. As you move into the Fancy Fisher Performance Academy, Fancy, from your position there at the phone calling Ryan, your door opens. And Miss Finch, a member of the local chantry, saunters in. Guess what she has in her hand?
Another one of the folders?
Yes.
And she puts on a smile she does not feel. And charming, said Silver to Martha. Well, good evening. What can I do for you this evening?
Oh, I'm afraid I've come with a bit of a delicate matter. I fear I may have taken something from you. I found
Hmm.
this among the effects of a late kind I fed upon.
Hearing that, if you'll uh, accompany me into the office because she didn't want anybody else to overhear their conversation, and motion towards the office. And once they reach the office, she shuts the door, doesn't lock it, but shuts it. What? One more time, please.
Yes, I found this book with among my dinner's effects. Seem to show some connection to you.
She holds out her hand for the book, even though everything in her stomach is turning. And do you remember the name?
I believe it was Penelope.
And opens up the binder to make sure that what she's thinking is who she's thinking. Because Penelope's not as common a name anymore.
It is not. And you've in your time have seen several, most change their name for stage. But it's not Penelope. It's Josephine.
Josephine.
And the troubling portion begins to settle in. As much like what you've intercepted from Corrine that was stolen by Anton, this is a accounting for kindred behaviors in and around Las Vegas for the past several score of decades. And troubling is just the beginning, because your name, your actual name, is listed there.
Damn it, Josephine, why? Why would you write all this shit down? I'm sure it was an accident, whatever happened between you and Josephine. And while my heart is definitely broken, prayers and sorrows and such, I'm sure her passing was peaceful because you helped. But, unfortunately, while my name is in this book, because I knew her when she was young and we worked together, the book belongs to, and she, if I'm reading this correctly, and what you're saying correctly, belongs to somebody else. Have you ever heard of the Madam?
A little bit.
She makes a motion with her hand, like ta-da. So this book is the problem very much for almost everybody, but I'm glad somebody intercepted it before somebody not like us could take it. So, panicking internally, wondering how long Ryan's gonna take, wondering if any moment people are gonna bust through the door. Oh. So, again, while I appreciate your apology, it's not to me. This apology probably should go. Unfortunately, I don't have time to take you to Lazaro's tonight and help you with that whole situation. I have my own small situation going on.
I see.
No good deed goes unpunished. No good deed goes quietly into the night. As you hear the touch of the ironclad madam, as you realize that one of the many down and out, forgotten members of society had information connecting to not just a kindred, but an organized criminal enterprise that is worth an ungodly amount of lucre. The web of incidental coincidence spreads even farther, because the door sounds and you all hear the annoying sound of police mobiles and the hushed voices of ladies believing that they are strippers or some such. People talking and giggling, and you can hear, yeah, we need to speak with the owner. And as you hear that, across town, not terribly far, grabbing the fire extinguisher up, Morgan.
Yes.
What are you attempting or hoping to do?
I mean, sure, they're wearing gas masks, but I'm banking on them not expecting a fire extinguisher blast to the face. Or in their general vicinity.
So you're going to throw the fire extinguisher at them, or you're going to pull the pin and use it?
We're going to pass. We love acronyms.
All right. That being the case, as you pass, you, instead of aiming at the base of the flame, you aim at their faces. I'm taking it, correct?
Yes.
Excellent. And not excellent all at once. Because as the noxious, unscented, yet somehow strangely offending fog that erupts from the fire extinguisher fills the space, they either have celerity or were gifted by Mercury himself with wing boots, winged sandals. Because as you pull, you spray, they're gone. And Mr. White, who screaming in pain, suddenly stops. In your shop, their controlled burst of flame proves that they didn't destroy anything. And while you expected to feel the heat of an explosion, or worse, while you expected to see the damaged skin of Mr. White as he was flame broiled and flambéed, he is in fact unharmed. Your floor is covered in the residue from the fire extinguisher. There's a very annoying aspect of burning someone alive that sticks with you. And having seen it done on a multiplicity of occasions and being the cause of one or two of those incidents, there's a scent that's attached with that, the scent of humans cooking or being cooked. It's called the lovely scent of cordite. You don't smell any of that in the air. As a matter of fact, as you think on things, you didn't smell any of that when Mr. White was on fire either. There's a chemical aspect to flamethrowers that most people don't consider. And it's one that Morgan, in her long, storied career, has smelled on several occasions. In fact, she has a flamethrower in the back room, locked in the safe, because it is in fact dangerous. And that scent sticks to things. That dribbling bit of chemical combustion makes it so that you don't forget that smell. And it would stick with you far longer if not for the scent of cordite. Burning flesh is unforgettable. Yet as Morgan stands with the fire extinguisher, she realizes that she doesn't smell it. She didn't smell it. She didn't effectively dodge the flames, yet she was untouched by it. She rolled gracefully underneath and moved towards crawling, but when she really replays it in her head, as close as that gout of flame was, there was no way that she wouldn't have singed hair. There's no way she wouldn't be having a several shades darker bit of bubbling, boiling skin. There's no way that Mr. White's clothing would be intact. There's no way that the glass wouldn't be stained and charred. She saw the gout of flame. She didn't feel the heat from it. Even with Mr. White burning alive, she didn't smell cordite.
We will put the fire extinguisher down and go to check on Ryan.
Therein lies the problem. He's perfectly physically fine. But being cooked alive leaves its own sorts of scars. How did Milton say it? The mind can make a hell of heaven and a heaven of hell. There is truth to that. There is physiological signs that he's been under the stress of being burned alive without ever having been roasted over an open flame. Shaken, stirred, and covered in a sheen of sweat from the exertions of attempting to put out a fire that just wouldn't go. You hear from your back room, "Ah, shit, it's not even fucking here." And with the net drawn, the noose tightening, the loosely, seemingly unconnected events of the first part of our first evening with the coterie draw to a close. Thank you all for a lovely play, and I'll see you guys next time. Good night, everybody.
Night.
This man really just gonna leave me at gunpoint. Alright, I see how it